Welcome back to Paper Pages and Possibilities. I'm very excited to have you here. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend some time with me and learn about some new books. So for today, I'm going to talk about 3 different books, and I decided to organize these in a certain order, going from the most depressing to the most inspiring. So let's get into it. The first one is 1984. So this book I read once when I was in either high school or early college. Not because I had to, it was something I was curious about. So this book is about a dystopian future. I'm actually just going to go ahead and read the back here. George Orwell's classic novel 1984 is a story of one man's nightmare odyssey through a world ruled by warring states and a power structure that controls not only information but also individual thought and memory. A minor functionary named Winston Smith joins a covert brotherhood and pursues a forbidden love affair against the cold, gray backdrop of the Republic of Oceania, only to become a hunted enemy of the state and of Big Brother. Now, more than half a century after it was written, Orwell's prophetic, haunting tale of conformity, repression, and identity strikes a disturbing chord as we will follow Winston Smith through his rebellion, imprisonment, torture, and re-education. We witness firsthand the destruction of the truths and freedoms that make us who we are, and the creation of a world where black is white, 2 plus 2 equals 5, and evil is good. So my overall impressions, at the end of this, it was a very depressing novel because it's not necessarily a happy ending. It really hits home, honestly, from what a lot of the things that I see in this book. One thing that really sticks out to me is there's a lot of mention or a lot of description about history being rewritten so that it fits the present need, and anything that has been rewritten or written out of history is completely erased from the world. So any written communication, any videos, it's a very curated world. And it's done, it is something that I somewhat see in our modern world, where we do certain things like banning certain books. But I do see it does hit home in a way. So all in all, this is I think I did a 4 out of 5 on this. No, 3 out of 4. 3 out of 5. One thing that really stood out for me is the story really talks about whether peace and freedom can coexist. Overall, I would have to say I'm not a big fan of this book. I'm more the person who likes to read happily ever after, but I understand what Orwell was trying to say, and I think it is a comment about society that everyone needs to at least acknowledge and think about, to understand how they feel about freedom versus happiness. So that's all my thoughts on that. Like I said, this is very depressing. 1984. I will say one thing that really stuck in my head about, not 1984, but a commercial that was created that had a very 1984 vibe. It was by Apple, I believe, and I'll put a link here to the commercial in case it's of interest to you, but it had a very 1984 vibe, and that's something, whenever I think of the book, that's the first thing that comes to mind. So very interesting. All right, so next book. This one is apocalyptic slash post-apocalyptic. This one is Alas, Babylon by Pat Frank. So this one was very interesting in that I thought it was going to be completely post-apocalyptic, so like after the apocalypse had happened, but it ended up being before the apocalypse, during, and like the first few months after. It starts with a couple of brothers, one who works in an area of government that makes him privy to the international state of the world. And he has this feeling that things are not going well, things could go south, could go destructive very quickly. And then he has a conversation with his brother that if that does happen, he will send his brother a message that there is no mistaking that he means that it is World War III. And lo and behold, after what, maybe a couple months, that message comes through. And the specific phrase that is the indication that World War III is happening is the title of the book, Alas, Babylon. Once we learn that this is happening, it kind of shows the actions that take place, like the domino effect that causes the basically nuclear war to occur. Nuclear war is rained down on the United States. What the question is throughout the book is how much of the other world did it affect? Because once the nuclear bombs hit the US, it breaks down communication, it isolates communities that were like outside of the blast range, and it really becomes a question, like it centers on this one community where the second brother is living and whether the rest of the world is still alive. And what I found really interesting, and I found this book actually rather optimistic in the very end, is it really showed how a small town, how resilient they were. It showed how even in the worst of circumstances, end of the world circumstances, people can be resilient, people can find a way, people can learn to come together to support each other and start over if need be. It does feel very optimistic. It shows how people can rise above the occasion, or rise to the occasion when it's called for. So yeah, Alas, Babylon. All right, finally, I'm getting into some really optimistic stuff. This last book is called The Alchemist. And you might notice this has a lot of tabs and whatnot, and I'm sure see a lot of, well, not so much highlighting, but I've got a lot of underline. But the tabs are basically areas that I found interesting or interesting plot points. Like this book was, I would say, worth its weight in gold. It's basically, at its heart, the story of the parable that a lot of people are familiar with, where someone goes on a journey to find themselves, find their purpose, find what they're looking for, only to discover that what they were looking for was back where they started the whole time. But it took that journey for the main character to see and value what he had to start with. So a lot of quotes that really hit home. Let me see here. Let me dig out a couple of those quotes. Okay, so this is one of the quotes from the book. There's one great truth on this planet. Whoever you are or whatever it is that you do, when you really want something, it is because that desire originated in the soul of the universe. To realize one's personal legend is a person's only real obligation. For me, that's powerful. And let me see, there's another. Absolutely love this one. One is loved because one is loved. No reason is needed for loving. Absolutely love that one. That's probably, honestly, something I would add to my life philosophy. Um, just like, you don't, love doesn't require something to be given to begin with. Love is because you choose to do it, regardless of what the circumstances are, regardless of what the person or the object is that is being loved. It has nothing necessarily to do with them and all about what you choose to do toward that person. I cannot recommend it enough. 5 out of 5 stars. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It is a short book, so this is only 180 pages. So I got through it in maybe 2 days, mostly because I took the time to, you know, underline and really absorb the book. But really, like, please, if you pick up any book this year, let it be that one. And if you do, I would love to hear your thoughts about it. If you have already read The Alchemist or 1984 or Last Babylon, I would love to hear your thoughts about it down in the comments. Next time, I do have something very interesting planned. Next week, I am going to feature something unusual, something called ergodic literature. If you want to know what that is and see some examples, we'll see you next week. Take care.